Okay, the final and fifth and final episode of Marsh Cove Chatting Shit, joined by James and James from Sheffield, and for the first time, Phil from Huddersfield. How's everyone doing?
Really good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, thank you.
Good.
Very good.
I'm actually originally from Huddersfield, but
yeah,
just to tie everything together.
Oh well, there we go.
That was a nice link. Couldn't have planned it.
No, it's almost like I know what I'm doing sometimes, isn't it? But, almost. So the picks we've got lined up tonight, how a couple of them have slipped under the radar this far in, I have no idea. Because we've got number 2, 5, and 6 on PvPo's rankings, which is just silly. Like how it's got, we're picking sort of picks numbers 17, 18, 19, and 20 here in terms of this series. So people have just been ignoring the good ones, which is good. We've had some interesting stuff. But do you want to start with Ferrothorn, James?
Yeah, so it's Pokédex number. Actually, I've got no idea. Sorry. Maybe you can answer in the comments. But it's number 2 on the seedings for this, and I think you said in the previous episode that you can only bring one grass type here. There isn't space in the team for 2 grass Pokemon, probably. If you're going to only bring one grass, why wouldn't you bring the one that beats all of the other grass? Because you can't rely on fire to beat all of the other grass because Credilli exists. You can't necessarily rely on flying to beat all of the other grass because Credilli and Ferrothorn exist. So your grass needs to beat all of the other grass, and it used to be that you'd look at Venusaur in a meta for that, or you'd look at Tropius, but Tropius is banned and Ferrothorn beats everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there was talk of Cherin. I think Jess talked about Cherin early on, which beats Ferrothorn, but then
does it beat anything else?
Yeah, it doesn't really do the job of a grass type because Solar Beam, it's hit and miss, literally, isn't it? So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that in itself is a pretty convincing argument for Ferrothorn, isn't it? But I think what it has as well, which is nice, is that steel typing because for no other reason than because Whimsicott, I guess.
Yeah, I think you have to beat Whimsicott a couple of different ways in your team. It's not going to be in every team you face by any means, but it's going to be in enough of them to be annoying. And if you've, as I found out in a practice cup the other night, if you've only got one really good answer to it, if you've only got fire types that beat it, say, or you're relying on Galvantula as your second answer to it, which it isn't, you're very vulnerable to just an RPS matchup where you don't get to align it and you don't win. So the more diverse answers for the token charmer in the meta you have, the better. And Ferrothorn fills that slot nicely, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, second move. New Team Thunder, Flash Cannon, Mirror Shot. Not gonna pull acid spray on us now.
I've been agonising over I looked at it. No, definitely not acid spray. I think that the worst thing about using Ferrothorn, the thing I enjoy least about Ferrothorn is how little charge move damage you get. It's very hard to farm things down. And quite often you find yourself in a matchup where there's just a little bit of health left on something, but it would take you 7 bullet seeds to get there, which on the one hand, great, that's a load of energy for the next matchup. On the other hand, you're going to eat another move in that time. And I think on that basis, I'm surprised myself, but I'm Team Mirror Shot. And if you'd asked me 2 hours ago, I'd no way. Mirror Shot's a terrible, terrible move. It's worse than Aerial Ace, and you know how I feel about Aerial Ace. But there are just so many matchups where that little extra bit of damage at the end swings it.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have time. You wouldn't have time to get to. So you can beat Sableye in once by landing a power whip and a mirror shot, and then having a power whip shielded. So you don't need to bait. Like
Right.
you can go straight power whip until you get it in mirror shot range, and then land the mirror shot. So there's no baiting involved. Obviously, if you do bait, then you land the mirror shot first, and you land the power whips later, and that's also fine.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it gives you some outs in the Sableye matchup that you wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah, I think that's what I found that as well with mirror shot in Sunrise Cup. That's the one that was previous to this, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With that little extra bit of chip damage against Figure Off, it came in quite handy versus.
Yeah, because you could just get to it in the lead after landing a power whip, couldn't you? Because the body slams didn't do enough.
Yeah, so I mean, mirror shot is as you say a terrible move, but in practice that might well be the right one. Yeah.
But in looking at the sims, like in the twos, the only Ferrothorn that beats Whimsicott is the mirror shot Ferrothorn.
No.
Hang on,
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So with baits off, in 2 shields each. Now, admittedly, Whimsicott might not be throwing two moves because it might not get to them. But yeah, the only Ferrothorn that beats Whimsicott in twos is mirror shot.
Well. Yeah,
So if you want
That
to be a
the
Whimsicott
oppressive
counter,
charm overtaking the steel type in there.
right? Given how people use Charmers to force switch, playing out the twos where you've counter switched Ferro is quite plausible.
Yeah.
There's a certain hilarity in landing a quadruple super effective acid spray, but it's not going to do that much, and neither is Bullet Seed. So
No.
I think mirror shot's the way to go.
Fair. Phil, what do you reckon? You got any thoughts on Ferrothorn and second moves?
Yeah, I think I could agree with that. I mean, it's not a Pokemon that I've used all that often. To be honest, I've come up against it a lot. Does cause me problems. I do agree with James that it quite often just falls that bit short where it doesn't, it's going to take an extra hit. So mirror shot might be the way to go, especially with the Charmin in there, as you say, Whimsicott. I haven't done any practice tournaments, so I'm not sure how prevalent that is. It's still a rarish Pokemon. I know I don't have one built. I assume if any of you guys practicing, you'll know. Is it in most teams?
A quarter at most, I think.
Yeah,
of sixes.
it's not that common.
So sort of 1 in 5.
It is cheap though, so it's not like it's not like Emolga. If it gets popular, then it will appear a lot because you can make one for nothing.
And this might be a symptom of the teams I was running, but every 6 that it was also on every bloody 3. That might have been because I had that was the night I had Crawdaunt on my team, to be fair. So
okay.
you expect to see Whimsicott.
I think though, I think it's that kind of Pokemon where people who brought it are going to like it and are going to want to use it. A bit like us with, well, I can't speak for yourself, James, but a bit certainly like me with Shadow Dragonite last month.
Yeah, absolutely. To my detriment, quite often. No, I can stay in against this Abomasnow. This is there are some downsides to not running Thunder. Like you lose the ability to beat some of the steel bugs.
Oh, I see. Yeah, fair enough.
Like you can take Forretress depending on move sets and baits and everything. It's such an iffy one anyway. But in the ones is comfortable with Thunder there, even if it baits. Mirror Shot's doing nothing for you there.
No, yeah, that's true.
But how worried are you about the steel bugs in this cup?
Well,
very worried. Be very worried.
Yeah.
I you know what? We'll talk about that when we come into Phil's pick later. But
fair enough.
I think they've got some play as well, to be honest. I think of a different one when I think of the one that Phil's thinking of, to be honest. But I think they've all got similar strengths. But Yeah, I guess the steel bugs are a pro for Thunder, but I guess my issue with Thunder is, and we spoke about this briefly. It might have been earlier or yesterday? I can't remember at this point. But I feel like if Thunder's the better move to go for rather than Power Whip, Power Whip's probably not doing that much less than Thunder, apart from the Marowak.
Yeah,
Well,
Power Whip being a pretty good move in of itself.
Obviously, the steel bugs are specifically an issue because they double resist everything. They double resist the grass moves and they resist the steel moves. But then the steel moves are only single resisted, and like if you went for a big flash cannon, that would absolutely chunk. And that's totally my second pick would be flash cannon rather than Thunder anyway. Here, I think.
Right. Yeah.
I just because I'm not. Like I don't need my grass type to beat steel bugs. I've accepted that loss. I think.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That's what you bring Marowak for.
I think this is a cup where things are playing different positions than we've seen them before. Like I'll talk about this maybe with Marowak, but yeah, obviously we were introduced to Ferrothorn during Forest when all the Bullet Seeders sort of came in place of the previous set of like Venusaur and Meganium.
Yeah.
And they play a bit differently anyway because they don't hit as hard. So yeah, it's like that second move. Like, do you want an okay-ish hit against Marowak, or do you want something that's like turbo spammy that you can bait with that can do a defense drop? I can totally see an argument for Mirror Shot here, just because like it's already getting off the grass not pretty fast. Why not have like a really spammy bait move? And in practice, I found that I just get backed into a corner and I want Flash Cannon, or I want a steel move. So I agree with James, but I don't know which one I'm going to choose quite yet.
So, if you want to beat Frostlass in Zeros, you need a steel move. That's both the other moves lose to it, and both of the steel moves win. So there are a few trade-offs that go the other way. I know they talked about Golbat in the last video. Where you need Thunder, but by and large, I think the steel moves give you more, and Mirror Shot, it pains me to say, Mirror Shot actually gives you the most.
Yeah, I think I agree. Any favourite partners for Ferrothorn?
I haven't done enough practice with it to give a good answer on that. It plays well late game. It plays better in the zeros than it does in the twos. Although I guess that's probably more the case if you're running it with Flash Cannon.
I don't know, because I feel like Power Whip's never enough to kill one thing. One Power Whip's never enough to kill anything unless you happen to be 4 times weak to it, like a Mudbite. But 2 definitely is. And what's killing Ferrothorn in one shield apart from what's killing Ferrothorn in one hit? What can't his tanker hit from apart from? I mean, AWAC and the counter users, I guess. But even then, something like Toxicroak does not want to take a Flash Cannon or a,
no, fair.
Yeah, so that's why I see that personally.
I think the one thing, the one thing that's got inside this cup is full of glassy Pokemon, and like it, other than obviously Marowak, it's got pretty good matches against everything. It can take a hit from most things, so I think that's helping it out here quite a lot.
I think it could be, and I haven't looked closely at this, but it could be the perfect closer for my Bibarel Frostlass core that I'm looking at. Or use Frostlass to draw out the Marowak, and then beat it.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Fair enough. So you say you've not. You said you've not looked at Ferrothorn, Phil. Like, is there like something you prefer to it, or is it just like you just don't fancy Ferrothorn, or what's the reasoning behind that?
I think the main reason I've not built one is just not finding a good PvP IV, to be honest. And like I say, it does cause me problems, as most any steel type does in just about any meta. Always tough to come up against. There's always that the 4 times weakness is an issue. Marowak will be on 80-90% of teams. Pretty much everyone has a Marowak built. You can kind of see, it can deal with the Ghost. Oh, sorry, I'm going to steal James's piece. But yeah, that's one of the, obviously the glaring weakness. As soon as it gets pinned down by anything with a fire type move, even a Skuntank with a flamethrower, it's just, that's the end of game. But yeah, definitely cause me trouble. We'll build one eventually when I get a good IV. Just very stingy with my Stardust, that's all.
No, fair enough. Yeah, well, that's
I
it.
built one for Forest, so I have a rubbish one. I built a slightly better one now, but yeah,
that's what I hate to do. I build one and then 3 weeks later I'm like, I've got a top tenner. I need to put the Stardust into that one. So yeah. Try and hold off as long as I can.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I feel like that's covered Ferrothorn pretty nicely. Like, it's a reasonably straightforward nom, really, isn't it? Like, it's what you're going to get for it.
Yeah, it's and don't use it as a safe swap if your opponent's got Marowak.
Yeah.
Pro tip.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
In fact, don't use it as a safe swap. Regardless.
Well, the thing is, if your opponent's not got a Marowak, they've probably got a counter user. So.
Yeah.
So let's it seems like a good point to transition into other James's pick, which is Marowak, the one and only. Yeah.
Marowak. I am starting to look like Team Marowak because I think this is the second time that I've covered it in chat and shit. But it felt like the right time to talk about Marowak because it just got a raid day. And just got slightly more annoying. And I've been looking at this because it kind of because of the way that fire spin's quite like a long move and it's like 10 energy, so it's still taking you a while to get to that first Shadow Bone, but then after the first one it becomes nigh on impossible to tell the difference between a Shadow Bone and a Bone Club, if that's the way you're going to go. And yeah, that there's a lot of like potential to mess around with the moveset, I think, more so than before, because like whichever way you looked at it, your fastest ghost move was like 55 energy and now it's 45. The only concern is that you've got a lot of things that don't want to take a fire spin. But yeah, I think like it's always seen as like a safe spot, but in this meta, I think it needs to be used more aggressively. Like it's not working very well as a safe spot because then there's Sableye and Haunter and Gengar, and it's kind of coming unstuck. There's a lot of stuff that can switch into it and do a bit of damage. So I think it's maybe a case for like getting in, doing as much damage as possible, and then letting something else sort of clean up the back line.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really weird meta, and I think we've all talked about this. How like I still haven't decided on a 6. I don't know if I'm close, but the two Pokemon that I've definitely decided on are Marowak and Swampert. They're the only two that I've been comfortable with throughout. Marowak's got a clearly defined role here. It's is it the only fire type?
I think it's the only fire, yeah. Poison fire, dark fire. It's not dark isn't a type here, is it? No. Ghost. Well, you could have Chandelier, but why would you do that when Marowak's a thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that being the only fire type is as Phil was saying earlier, like it's going to be on like 80-90% of teams, and it's the people will be drawn to it because of that Ferrothorn matchup, and so not only will it be on 80-90% of teams, but I feel like it's going to be in more threes than it isn't going to be in threes as well, personally, unless you build your team to scare the hell out of it, which is one way to go. I mean, something I've looked at now is because if you line up Ferrothorn if you line up your Ferrothorn with your opponent's Marowak, it's game over really, because you get farmed and then things have to eat Shadow Balls or Shadow Bones. And so I've mentally said to myself, I don't want to run Galvantula and Ferrothorn, just because I want to make it as difficult as possible for my opponent to bring Marowak, just so I'm avoiding that risk. And I think that. And I think ultimately that's why I'm not sure on Galvantula, and I'm more than not sure about Galvantula now. I know I don't want it, because that would mean to me that I'd have to not bring Ferrothorn, and I really like Ferrothorn. But Marowak, interesting you say it's definitely not a safe switch here, because it definitely isn't. Like, it seems like the only thing it beats is all the grasses, I guess, apart from
Whimsicott.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the shits all over Whimsicott.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a weird position for Marowak, because Marowak's just kind of like usually there and usable in most metas, but it seems like it's fairly pivotal in this one, and it isn't performing its usual role. It's kind of like feels more like Blaziken did in Forest Cup, like the token fire type that kind of has shaped the meta. And it might be that later in the month you see less and less of Marowak because the meta's moved a bit and people are bringing less bugs and less steel bugs. So, yes.
I think there are two bugs that it has really interesting interactions with, because it's one of only two things that can switch into Galvantula and not give up some kind of advantage. So obviously it's got.
What's the other one?
Well, funnily enough, Crustle.
Oh yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Which also beats Marowak. So for a while I was looking at, do I really even need Marowak, because Crustle can do the same job as it, right? But also beats the Marowak. The answer to that is yes. Yes, you do need Marowak.
Where do you send on that, Phil? Yeah, you need Marowak. No, you don't need Marowak, or what do you reckon?
Pretty much always need Marowak. Yep.
Yeah.
It just does such a good job against the bugs. It literally puts so much pressure on that the team pick. Not only that, it's always got Shadow Bone, Shadow Ball, or the Fire, whatever it is. What's the big hitting move? Fire Blast.
Fire Blast.
I mean, not that you're going to bring it. You're not going to bring it because if you've got Fire Spin, but if you're running Hex, maybe. But yeah, it can pack a punch against just about anything, and it just annihilates all the bugs and the seals.
Yeah. So yeah,
I think if you were happy to like have a Crustle and maybe something else that counters bugs elsewhere, there's a possibility you could run the Hex variant just to screw people over who think that like you're playing a certain way. And like I say, I think that Shadow Bone maybe gives you more of an opportunity there, because you've got a lower energy, like I wouldn't say bait move, but you've got a lower energy move than Shadow Ball.
You're less bait reliant as well, aren't you?
It's only 4 hexes, which is suddenly suddenly becoming quite fast.
Yeah, so it's 4 hexes, whereas it's 5 spins, and that's what I mean. Like, whereas that's what I was trying to say, but not very eloquently. Like the energy of Fire Spin works out so that the first Shadow Bone doesn't seem that fast.
Yeah,
And then-
the odd ones are more expensive and the even ones are cheaper, aren't they?
Yeah. But with Hex, it's like it's 48, isn't it? Four hexes.
It's always 4. Every fourth one is only 3, but you're not getting to 4. Not very often.
I'm not sure about a Shadow Bone in this meta in particular, because as we say, there's so much that it's useless against Marowak here that regardless of what moveset you're running, you're not being saved by. Well, I don't know. Maybe you can get to 2 Shadow Bones versus a Kingdra. Well, I guess Kingdra's not absolutely whomping you down, but because it's not got water moves. But maybe
depends on whether you go for the elite charge gem or the crappy one that you managed to trade with somebody.
Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is, what you're beating with Marowak, you're beating with Fire Spin, and you don't really need the charge moves in that regard. So personally, why I think Shadow Ball's the move to have here, to be honest, because then once you've come out of the matchup, you've got the bigger moves to throw. But why not run Shadow Bone as well? I mean, Bone Club. What's it? I mean, it's a poor move, but what's it actually hitting here? Like Alolan Muck. Yeah.
Just that, really.
Mm.
But the ghost moves are going to be better DPE against. I'm going to say everything except Bibarel and Alolan Muck.
Yeah.
Don't get caught by the Bibarel.
Don't get caught by the Bibarel.
Is there another normal type in this?
There is not.
I just checked. Yeah, that is it. Bibarel, Sawsbuck.
Ooh.
But you're fire spinning Sawsbuck to death in seconds anyway. So
Yeah.
not
But I mean,
about that.
I'm personally not Toxie.
Toxic is super effective, isn't it?
I guess so.
Shadow Bone is still better. Well, Shadow Ball is certainly more damage per energy there.
Yeah.
Bone is slightly less, so might not be. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers on that.
My argument for Shadow Bone would be that it takes 9 fire spins to eat a whole Ferrothorn, which gives you exactly 2 Shadow Bones.
2 Shadow Bones. Yeah, fair enough.
Although no, it doesn't. It takes 10. Never mind.
Okay. Yeah, but 10 gives you a Shadow Bone and a Shadow Ball.
Yeah, that's true. Or leaves you 1 away from 2 balls, I guess, which if you run ball. So yeah, either works.
Yeah, there's versatility there. I mean, I'm still not. I don't know. Personally, I'm starting to feel anti-AWAC. Personally, myself, I think I'm going to be one of those 10% that doesn't run it, and that's purely because as we said, there's just so much that beats it here, and I'd rather run a team of 3 that just doesn't. While it doesn't have any Ferrothorn counters, it doesn't have anything that Ferrothorn beats, like per se. And I think I'd rather beat Ferrothorn by sort of aggregate, I guess.
So, does that mean you wouldn't bring Crustle or Marowak?
Crustle. I'm between a rock and a hard place with Crustle. I think I'm more likely to bring Crustle than Marowak.
But obviously it has a much worse Ferrothorn matchup, but I feel like you need one of them, or it's just Galvantula safe swaps for days.
Yeah. Oh, the Swampert's there as well. But
Swampert can't. Swampert has to give it an advantage as a counter switch.
Yeah, the Mud Boys are all a bit the Mud Boys are all a bit dodgy against Galvantula.
I thought if you've got a good Swampert, you can get away with it. I thought
maybe if you're really fast in. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like if your team's looking weak to Ferrothorn or Ingrasses in general, then yeah, I feel like it's a good bring. But I feel like I'm building my team in such a way where currently, if I had to enter a team tomorrow, which I'm probably not too far off now, I'm probably like having to enter a team in a couple of days. My team is Ferrothorn and 5 things that beat AWAC.
Fair.
That's where I'm looking at the minute. But yeah, I don't think it's quite as necessary as people are making it out to be. But it's one of those mons that everyone's comfortable with now, isn't it? Like people have used it a lot, and I wouldn't ever blame anyone for bringing AWAC ever. Like it's always going to do a job, isn't it? So.
And it's interesting that you, I know you're half kidding, but you're talking about not bringing it, but it's still shaping your team.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, 100%.
It's absolutely determining half your picks.
Shaping 5 of his 6, I believe.
Well, yeah.
yeah.
You might as well just bring it and then have 4 free slots.
Well, I guess so. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it didn't initially. I didn't set out that way. I thinking.
Yeah.
I want 5. Like I was wanting 3 good counters to it. But even that, I feel like is very achievable here because you've got Mud Boys, you've got Water types, you've got Crustle.
I think double water is very comfortable here.
Yeah. Sableye, I'm loosely classing Golbat as a counter, so yeah. There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, it officially is if it lands the bait.
I think Shadowbone gives it a hard time. But yeah.
Because who's shielding against Golbat?
Right, well, this is it. This is my big point with Golbat. Who's shielding versus Golbat? Oh no,
it's like I watched the video.
Oh dear. Okay, well, let's go on to Phil's pick, which is a different kind of Ferrothorn counter. Just about, I think.
Just about, especially in the 1 shield, not in the 0 shields even. So yeah, my pick is Wormadam Trash. Something I've been using quite a lot of in the Halloween Cup. I think it's something that in that particular cup people didn't prepare for. It needs pretty much maxing out, so not a lot of people brought it. And it does have the very nice ability to absolutely chunk away at anything with a poison typing, which is very nice. I'm not usually a big fan of the confusion users. I find them a little bit slow to charge up, sometimes difficult to get off a charge move. But in all fairness, Wormadam isn't about the charge moves, it is that confusion damage as far as I'm concerned. It comes with a boatload of resistances, so it resists poison, grass, and it double resists steel, psychic, normal, ice, fairy, dragon, bug. So it literally resists just about everything except for fire types. So you don't want to encounter the Alola Marowak if it can ever get pinned down, as James, Sheffield James, original Sheffield James, said earlier. It's it's tough. Lost my train of thought, so I'll go away from that. What it does do, it beats the Garvantula. It can beat even Azumarill. As you said, it beats the Ferrothorn. It gives anything really a tough time. It will struggle with Sableye. Gets absolutely walled by the Alola Marowak. Definitely not the safe swap. You will need to build a team around it to protect it. As you said earlier, Matt, you need to bring not 5 counters, but maybe 2 or 3 counters to that Alola Marowak. Maybe just to put that bench pressure on, make people think I dare bring the Alola Marowak in, which might allow you to bring in the Wormadam. But yeah, it can do well in the back, just especially when shields are down, when shields don't matter. Just that confusion alone can just chunk away at a lot of stuff in this meta, including the Mud Boys. It runs close with most of the Mud Boys. I think it's pretty much a straight tie with Swampert, the Whiscash, and what's my other one? What's my other Mud Boy? Quag. Yeah. It can struggle against them again, depending on shields. But yeah, it does well against most things.
Yeah, I think it's a really underrated pick. I think it's a really underrated pick. when you first told me you were going to speak about that, I sort of had a look at the rankings because I had no idea whereabouts it was. And it's number 6. Like
Number
that's
6. If you look at, I mean, I know people don't look at Pokebattler, not in the PvP world, but I just had a quick look on Pokebattler. It is number 1, depending on how you kind of set it up. But by their default settings, it is the number 1 pick, amazingly. So, you know, it is something strange. And when I've looked at, you know, you look at any of the graphics, any of the articles, maybe it's a passing mention, Wormadam, if that. Sometimes it's just not included on the graphics, which, as you say, it's surprising as a number 6 pick. It literally, the only thing it really needs to avoid is just the Marowak. Most other things it puts in good work, and it beats a lot of the, you know, the top picks in this meta. Most importantly, Galvantula for me.
yeah.
So
My experience of facing them is that it takes forever to get to a charge move, but unless you are like a fire type, when it does get to a charge move, you have to respect it. It only has big chunky moves that get a stab, and
that's right. Yeah, and by the time it gets to a charge move, he's probably taken half of your health anyway. So
yeah.
You know that, you know, the charge move is going to just do the finishing work. So
yeah, and didn't Bugbuzz get something recently? A debuff chance?
Yeah, so that's quite good. I experienced that quite a lot in Halloween Cup, which is always just a nice little bonus. So yeah,
it was a good move before, and it's a slightly better move now.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, 30% chance of a debuff, which is quite high. If it is something that's going to finish you off, the next Pokemon coming in has that advantage. You know, it can swing a matchup sometimes.
Yeah, I think what I like about it is that, I mean, traditionally steel types are weak to counter. I mean, even though the bug resistant, you know, traditionally you'd be quite happy bringing a toxic rope, for example, versus a fortress. But you can't do that with Wormadam. So that sort of automatically limits the pool of potential counters. As you say, to sort of Marowak, and that's about it. I mean, maybe sort of look at Pelipper as well. I would, but again, it's a very, very niche pick. And other than that, you're looking at dark types, which, because of the confusion resistance, which is all good and well, but Bugbuzz is gonna.
Bugbuzz hits.
Bugbuzz kills Shiftry about 17 times. If it gets hit by one, it's out for the whole tournament.
Definitely. So yeah, I'm amazed it's kind of kept under the radar. I mean, as you said, against Toxicroak, that my favourite thing to do against Toxicroak is when it's nearly there with a mud bomb, or even better if it's trying to get to the sludge, just bring in the Wormadam right at the end, just go bang bang, 1-2 confusions, and all the energy's gone. You know, it's one of my favourite players.
It feels like it doesn't have that defined role in this cup as it did in the Toxic, where it was like the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Which is maybe why I think it's flown under the radar a bit. And that's one of the issues I've had with picking a team here, is that like there's lots of things that are all weak to Marowak that I want to pick, but I've got to kind of pick one. And I'm with Matt. I'm totally going off Galvantula. Like, I think Galvantula is close to the chopping block for me, because there's picks, because Wormadam will offer you something different. Picks like Wormadam. I'm also looking at Fortress. Fortress is 3rd, and like. we barely spoken about it, and it hasn't been mentioned that much.
I think
chatting shit.
I think Fortress is 3rd though, because it's one of those PvP poke darlings, isn't it? Where it's you're going to throw a bait with mirror shot and it's going to be shielded every time. Whereas I don't think Wormadam has that. Wormadam is probably genuinely as good as PvP poke suggests.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any bait moves.
There's no bait
move is 50, 55.
50, I think, is that Ironhead. Yeah. So yeah, no baits. As you say, that is a pure ranking, really.
And as we were saying about Marowak earlier, I mean, as far as being weak to something goes in this cup, Marowak's probably a good thing to be weak to, because there's so much that counters Marowak here. It's not like if you're building your team around a Wormadam perhaps, or a Wormadam with something else as a sort of core, it's not like then your hand is forced into picking one of two other things to cover that weakness. It's right, well, I could have this, I could have a water type, I could have a mud boy, I could have Sableye, I could have a dark type. Like it offers you a lot of versatility still, having a starting point that's weak to Marowak.
Kind of harkening back to Toxic as well. Like I had this problem during Toxic of like that I needed more than one Toxicroak, just like because so many things were weak to it, but it didn't last the distance. And it's like, how many things are you going to be able to realistically take down with Marowak? So there's that kind of argument there. Like, yeah, there's a lot of water pressure as well. But then you like the waters. Some of the waters are the ones that also counter Wormadam, so maybe there's a risk there. But I hadn't even looked at it until you mentioned it, so now I might start.
I think something I like about Wormadam is that I think the water ice types are pretty nice here, as sort of fringe picks, and I think Whimsicott's quite nice as a fringe pick, and I think Golbat's quite nice as a fringe pick, and I think Wormadam deals with, and counter users as well. Wormadam deals with all the fringe picks well. So if someone's coming in with a team that they've had a real well thought out particular strategy that they want to play that revolves around any of these fringe picks, Wormadam's possibly going to put a nice stop to that. Whilst and then if they choose not to bring that particular strategy in a line of three, Wormadam's still going to do a job for you. Apart from when it's Marowak, obviously, but that's a caveat that comes with so much stuff, isn't it? So,
have you just defined what a good generalist is? I think that's
no
pretty much.
No, I don't think I have. I think
okay.
I think when I think of a good generalist here, I think of Kingdra and I think of Sableye. Stuff that beats
Alolan Muck.
Yes, yeah, stuff that beats a lot of the core meta, or does what it's possible.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's a different kind of general coverage.
Yeah, I think this meta, because of its how broad it is. I think Bill Megs James was saying earlier, like there's so much stuff that he wants to pick, but he can't because it's all weak to Marowak. I think this meta's got room to grow and what's the word people use? Meta's shifted. That's it, isn't it? I feel like this meta's got time to shift, and sort of we'll see a bit of an anti-meta come around and stuff like Lapras and Toxicroak. I feel, and to an extent, it's happening already. I think, and at that point, when that stuff gets good, I feel Wormadam could come into its own.
Yeah, I agree.
I would not have guessed that Wormadam beats Lapras.
I mean, I'm completely assuming that's.
No, it does. All equal shields, no baits, no messing about.
Wow.
Well, it can't bait, can it?
No.
Straight Ironhead, or
well, they're both neutral.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, straight Ironhead.
Wow.
In the zeros, anyway. So yeah, presumably in all shields, because getting a bug bust shielded isn't better, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
My Wormadam is really bad though. Is that?
Oh, in the.
I suppose there's not much difference between like, 'cause mine's lucky. I was like, I'm not spending 250k on it.
So in the ones you get your Ironhead shielded and then you land a bug buzz to win, but I'm sure you could get 2 bug buzzes. You've got plenty of health left when that happens.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Wormadam is something that is on my very, very long list of things to best buddy. I've got one maxed out that's at something like 1480 or something, which isn't ideal.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean it's not ideal, but or is it level 39 and a half at 1480? And I don't want to do it up to 40 because then I can't best buddy it because it'll go over.
Yeah.
But it's on a very, very long list of things I want to best buddy, but I do about 2 hearts a day on a good day. So,
I think mine's level 37.
Wow. Well, to be fair,
an egg hatch or something.
Wormadam. So Toxic Cup was the reason I powered up Wormadam, and it was one of a few things that I spent a lot of Stardust on the coach back from Paris from the Rose Cup when I was just on a bit of a high. So I just thought, 250k into Wormadam, 100k into the spidery thing. You know what?
Legacy freely on holiday, don't we?
Yeah, Legacy Pidgeot. Let's do it. Yeah. So yeah. But no, I think Wormadam's got some serious play. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know how I hadn't noticed that. It's you say it's 6th in the rankings.
Yeah.
Number one on Pokebattler.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Cool.
Battler's always a bit. Well, not always, but
it's not the best. Yeah, I don't know how they calculate their rankings.
I remember what cup it was, but like every team had Charizard on it, and Charizard wasn't in their top 40 or something, and I was like,
Yeah. Oh, that was the one with Phil and I used executing. I could keep getting mixed up in. Was it Rainbow? Wasn't it?
Rainbow. Yeah, that'll be Rainbow.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
we both. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an
executes.
pick.
That was a fun cup. Yeah.
It's eligible here. Do you not fancy another Confusion user here?
Double Confusion. Yeah, it gets when you know.
That does really well against Sableye.
What's Sableye doing? Yeah. Cool. Any further thoughts on Wormadam or no?
I'm still in shock at having missed it.
Fair enough.
So.
I wish I brought it to as well. Yeah, you've let the cat out of the bag now, innit?
I know. It was great. It was great in Halloween. It really was.
Yeah,
because I think people I can pick a team. People won't really have Wormadam maxed out and double moved, so people thought it's not that big a threat, and
it's not. It's not a sexy pick either. Like it's not a Toxicroak or like a Scrafty or something, or Xylus or something like that. It's a bit.
It's trash.
Pink triangle.
It is called trash. So
it's another property of good generalists. They tend to be unexciting.
Yeah.
They beat a lot of things, but they don't. They're not going to turn a small advantage into a huge one by exploiting something.
No.
But they're going to save you from being from a disadvantage.
Yeah, they're not going to shout about what they do. Yeah.
No, they're just going to trundle through beating Lapras in all even shields. I'm mind blown.
Well, I want to talk about a different bug, which is perhaps as far on the opposite end of the spectrum as Wormadam as is possible for a bug type, and that's Heracross. Heracross is going to shout about what it does because nothing wants to take a close combat that isn't a ghosty thing anyway. I think this, I can see this conversation sort of turning into a conversation about all three of the counter users at the discount realm. And when I say the three, I sort of talk of Heracross, Toxicroak, and Escavalier, because on the whole they do the same role, but not everyone has a Heracross. I'm one of the lucky few, certainly in England anyway. And the reason I think where counter users shine is because there isn't a great, when we talk about Sableye being good and we talk about the dark types switching into them, and sort of Alolan Muck is the one that a lot of people seem to be favouring. When you think of counters to Alolan Muck, you think of Mud Boys, but they come with the crippling Ferrothorn weakness. Heracross in particular doesn't have the Mud Boy weakness like something like Toxicroak does. Heracross actually beats the Mud Boys, particularly good against Wishcash because of bug resisting ground. but it's generally bulkier than people expect it to be. So whereas Toxicroak will just about chew a Hydro Cannon from a Swampert and then get farmed down by Mudshots, Heracross can actually switch into Swampert after, I think the Swampert needs 3 Mudshots to beat it in the 2 shields. So if as long as you're switching in within 2 seconds, which doesn't sound like a long time, but I don't know when
you're not winning that by landing charge moves, are you? You're winning that by countering it down before it gets to the 4th Hydro.
Yeah. Go on, Phil. Sorry, what were you going to say?
So I was just going to say, it depends how good you are on the new switching system. If you know where, I must admit, not a big fan. I like what they've done. I'm not sure I like the positioning of it.
It's muscle memory at the minute.
Too high, isn't it?
It's
I always hit the bottom one.
It disappears. So you do a charge move, and you know, you're wanting to do an instant switch, and you're like, where are they? And so often I'm like, well, which one did I have as my top one? Which was my bottom one? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm wanting to press it quickly, but I'm like, I need it to pop back in. So yeah, I know it's getting used to it, but I think
they may improve that as well.
I think just
make it visible.
Just visible throughout. Yeah, I don't know why it disappears during charge moves.
Yeah. But,
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. No problem. No, it's a good point. It's a good point because if you try to switch Heracross into your opponent's Swampert quickly and you accidentally click on AWAC, then
yeah, exactly.
But no, it can on the well, yeah. But no, it can on the whole. It will on the whole beat Swampert, which is obviously not something. Which is what you want. Was Swampert the one I was? No, sorry, I've completely lost my trail of thought.
You were talking about counters for Muck.
Yes, that was it. So it's a counter to Muck that also beats the thing that Swampert is weak to. It just so happens to be weak to the thing that Swampert also beats. So like Swampert beats AWAC, but is cripplingly weak to Ferrothorn, whereas Heracross beats Ferrothorn, but is cripplingly weak to AWAC. That's what I was trying to say. So between them, you've got a sort of nice pair of Muck switchings if you need that. And I guess by virtue of being, what Heracross does that Swampert doesn't do is pick up Shiftry as well. What Heracross does that Swampert doesn't do, is pick up the Shiftry. So it's perhaps a more reliable all-round counter switch to the dark types. And it doesn't drop the Crustle matchup either, like Swampert does, like that Swampert has. So that's something you keep him. It's
taking neutral from SmackDown, isn't it?
Oh, that's true. I just assumed. I do a lot of that.
It's the fighting resists, but then I forgot the bug type is weak, so it's the same as Blaziken. It takes neutral from rock.
Yeah.
It probably still has. It probably wins if it lands a move, and not if it doesn't.
Yeah, and counters charging faster than SmackDown, so you're probably faster to your moves as well. So you're probably taking some sort of advantage there. But then you're also beating the water types, the icy water types in particular, that are going to give Swampert problems. So Lapras, Tugong, and Rainy Cast form outspams it. Kingdra will just munch through it, I think, in twos. But generally speaking, it provides a nice bit of variation in how you want to counter Muck, if you want to, as a sort of alternative to a Mud Boy. And I think using counter users and Mud Boys as sort of one or the other is something we've seen before. Like, it's traditionally how you think about beating steel types, isn't it? So, yeah.
Just I looked quickly at the Crustle matchup, and you win the zeros inevitably because you land a move, and you don't win the one or the two.
Okay. All right.
And if Crustle shields once, there's nothing you can do. Like, you can't shield twice and win. But you can leave Crustle really low, So
I'm going to rebrand that as taking a shield advantage from Crystal.
well, you've got the option. You can either go into the 2s and leave Crystal farmable, or you can take a shield advantage. So
Yeah.
you take your choice.
Yeah. And what I like about it as well is, and we say it's cripplingly weak to Marowak. Toxicroak has Mud Bomb, which will do a nice little chunk to Marowak, but it'll see it coming. So if it's low, it might shield. Escavalier's got Drill Run, which Marowak will see come in and shield. Marowak might not see Earthquake coming from Heracross.
PvPoke isn't recommending Earthquake, so people who haven't watched this video might not expect it.
I'm recommending Earthquake.
I don't see what Megahorn is for here.
No. Well, I guess Sableye, but that's sort of polishing a turd, to use one of my favourite phrases.
Megahorn and Earthquake are both neutral there, so...
Yeah, that's true.
I don't see a huge
Megahorn's decent move, isn't it?
Yeah, and get stab here.
Yeah. So I think Heracross would be my counter user of choice, and I think a bit like Escavalier, Wormadam. I think it's potentially going to see more play later on, in terms of when the anti-meta sort of develops. Talk about Wormadam beating the Alolan Muck and beating Lapras and that sort of thing. Yeah, the counter users are going to do that sort of thing. And as I say, the reason I like Heracross more than the others is for the Mudboy matchups, where generally speaking, we touched on this, or James touched on this right at the start with Terrathorn. You can't really have more. It's tough to bring more than one grass here. And what else beats the Mudboys convincingly? Well, Heracross does. So it's a little sort of add-on to the side of a counter user that the others don't have. I mean, Escavalier can do it with a bit of an energy advantage. Toxicroak can do it if you want to double shields and just pound through things with counter. But Heracross does it sort of reliably, so that'd be my thoughts. What do you guys think? Any thoughts?
I just had a look. You were talking about the Marowak matchup. In the Zeros, Marowak can't switch into you.
Yeah.
Because if you've got one counter, so Shadow Ball Marowak can't switch into you. Shadow Bone Marowak can if it's fast.
Yeah,
because obviously it gets to the killing move that bit faster. Bone Club does nothing to you, so
yeah.
I'm just immediately comparing it with Toxie, and like I feel like it's like a team composition thing that's selling it. I think Toxie does most things better than it, but then Toxie's adding a double weakness to Psychic and a weakness to Ground.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think the Psychic thing really plays here. I mean, I know we've just spoken about Wormadam, but like, other than Wormadam,
it's
there's
the only
not that much Psychic around.
User.
Yeah, it's not a meta that is dominated by Psychic moves.
Yeah. Confusion Venomoth isn't a thing anymore.
It's a thing. It's just not a popular thing.
Not
I used it in Timeless. It served me well. That's the last time.
I feel like any
it's had its day.
Yeah, I feel like any reason you'd have to run Confusion Venomoth, you're probably using Confusion Wormadam now. I would have thought.
Bug Steel is a great typing. Very much considered one of the best typing combinations, alongside Water and Ground.
Right, because they've only got the one weakness.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one double weakness, but yeah.
Sure.
And that's why there's lots of Mud Boys and there's lots of Steel Bugs, because it's a recognised good place to be. But yeah, I don't know. I like Heracross. I've got Heracross. I'm one of these few people, and I do really like it. And I've used it in GBL, and I used it in some Cup. But I just feel like it's crying out for a bait move. They need to get it something, even if it's cross chop
or
something.
Something
terrible,
non-stab.
Like
so
it's so predictable. That's the problem. It's so predictable. You're like, oh, are you saving up to 2 close combats? Yeah.
Oh look, you've done 13 counters. Now I'll switch to my ghost.
I know that count.
Yeah.
So that's my only issue with it, is that it's a bit. I'm not saying that like Toxic Rogue isn't predictable, but it's a lot quicker to the punch.
One of the advantages of Heracross is if you're getting farmed down by a flying type, you give them a lot less free energy.
True. This isn't a flying heavy meta, so like Heracross is like has got that going for it.
Yeah,
like,
Golbat won't be everywhere, and Pelipper will be in even fewer places.
Yeah.
And they're the only flying fast moves, I think. Probably.
Yeah. Be inclined to say so.
So it's pretty niche. If you do run into a Golbat, just don't bring it.
I think it's worth pointing out as well that while we're on the subject of counter users, if a counter user fits your team nicely, but you don't want to add another Whimsicott weakness, a Scavalier also has a niche there as well for being the steel type and helping out versus Whimsicott. But I feel the lack of stab on counter here is a big miss, given that some of the things you're using counter to hit against, like Alolan Muck isn't actually weak to counter. Mud Boys aren't weak to counter. Crustle, which is generally speaking is a nice matchup for, well, it's certainly a nice matchup for Toxic Rogue, isn't actually weak to counter.
Toxic Rogue resists everything though, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I feel like a Scavalier is a bit further down the pecking order than it's going to be. But yeah, no, Heracross. Go on, mate. No, after you.
I was going to say, I think like James has already highlighted the like neutrality to Rock to Crustle is another little like niggling problem for me. Because I feel Crustle's pretty pivotal here.
It's only the same as a Scavalier in that sense. It's taking neutral
and
dishing out neutral in that matchup.
They're also squishy though.
I mean, I guess the bottom line to me is with Heracross is and the same goes for Kingdra as well. It's stuff that I think could be good here. And if I have a month, it's a broad meta, and a lot of things could happen here over the course of the month. I feel, and if I have another month like I had with Catacomb, where I just don't get it, and every match is a struggle, and I just don't want to play it, I'll probably look back in a month and think, well, I may as well have used Heracross and Kingdra because I would have at least enjoyed that. I think Heracross could be a lot of fun. Is what I'm trying to say, but it definitely has a place as well.
I think there's a risk of getting rock paper scissors with this meta, and I really am keen not to go down that path and get some generalists. So this has been a good learning experience for me in that regard.
Fair enough. Nice one. Well, unless anyone's got any closing thoughts, we'll call it there.
Well, only that, as ever, I think this is you said this is the 5th chatting shit for this cup.
It is, yeah.
This is the 5th time that I've come away from it going, yeah, I need all of those on my team. Maybe not all. I think Drapion didn't make it, but...
Drapion was the best thing ever.
Yeah, maybe. No, but they're all, there are so many good picks in this cup, and I think we'll see some very diverse teams.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this month. Yeah. Well, nice one. Thanks for joining. Before we go, quick shout out to Phil, because a lot of the smaller communities have been struggling with getting numbers over lockdown, but Phil's been absolutely smashing it in Huddersfield, recruiting loads of new players. That's certainly going to be a place to visit.
All over the world, with players from America, India. I'm not sure what attracts them to Huddersfield.
Well,
you'd think I was going on random orders. You'd think I was going on random forums or something, but literally I'm just doing my normal thing, create it on Silph, stick it up on Facebook, and yeah.
Well, when in-person ones are back, Huddersfield's definitely going to be a place to visit for tournaments when for locals who can get to it fairly quickly. So we'll definitely recommend that.
All expenses paid flights for our American and Indian friends.
Nice one. Right, cheers, guys. Thank you very much, and catch you later.
Cheers.